It was a cold, clear day in New York City on January 15, 2009. A jetliner, U.S. Airways Flight 1549, was cruising above the city, bound for Charlotte, North Carolina. The Airbus A320 had just taken off from LaGuardia Airport, its engines humming steadily as the flight crew prepared for the routine journey. On board, 155 people, 150 passengers and 5 crew members, sat back in their seats, unaware of the danger that was about to unfold. In the cockpit, the experienced captain, Chesley Sully Sullenberger, was at the controls. He had flown for U.S. Airways for over 30 years and had more than 19,000 hours of flight experience. His first officer, Jeffrey Skiles, was a younger pilot, having joined the airline just a few years before, but he had also logged thousands of hours in the cockpit. The crew was prepared for any challenge that might come their way, but nothing could have prepared them for what was about to happen. The plane was climbing through 3,000 feet just minutes after taking off, when a sudden, deafening roar filled the cockpit. Captain Sullenberger and First Officer Skiles exchanged a quick glance as both engines failed simultaneously. A pair of Canada geese had flown into the plane's path, striking both engines with devastating force. The impact caused the engines to immediately lose power. The aircraft, now powerless, began to drift. In the moments that followed, the cockpit was filled with the sounds of alarms and the frantic movements of the flight crew. The loss of both engines meant that the plane had no propulsion, and its descent toward the earth was inevitable. The sheer suddenness of the situation left little time for a measured response. The plane's altitude was quickly plummeting, and every second counted. The seconds stretched into eternity as Sully, without hesitation, began working on his response. Sullenberger had spent his entire life training for moments like this. In the chaos of losing both engines, he remained calm, drawing on years of experience to keep his mind focused. The first step was to attempt to restart the engines. With no power in the engines, it would take a miracle for the plane to continue flying. But Sully knew that the best course of action would be to attempt a controlled landing. As the plane fell toward the city below, Sully made a critical decision. He ruled out returning to LaGuardia Airport, as the plane would not have the altitude or time to make it back. The nearby Teterboro Airport in New Jersey also presented a challenge. It was too far, and there were too many buildings in the way. The only viable option was to try to land the plane in the Hudson River. Sully's training had prepared him for this. He had practiced emergency landings many times before, but never in a situation like this. The distance was too short, the river too unpredictable. He knew that if he was going to land the plane successfully, he had to remain calm, focused, and precise. He communicated with air traffic control as he adjusted the plane's speed and angle of descent. The controls of the aircraft, while designed for smooth operation in normal circumstances, felt foreign in these extreme conditions. As the plane approached the water, Sully could see the reflections of the city's skyline glistening on the river's surface. The moment felt surreal. The passengers, unaware of the severity of the situation, were starting to realize that something was very wrong. The flight attendants moved down the aisles, preparing the passengers for an emergency landing, though they didn't know exactly what to expect. Sully's training had prepared him for this. He had practiced emergency landings many times before, but never in a situation like this. The distance was too short, the river too unpredictable. He knew that if he was going to land the plane successfully, he had to remain calm, focused, and precise. He communicated with air traffic control as he adjusted the plane's speed and angle of descent. The controls of the aircraft, while designed for smooth operation in normal circumstances, felt foreign in these extreme conditions. First Officer Skiles, though young, followed Sully's lead. The two of them worked seamlessly as a team, each knowing their role and executing their tasks without hesitation. As the river drew closer, Sully made his final adjustments, positioning the plane so that it would hit the water as gently as possible. He was aware that even the smallest misstep could lead to a catastrophic outcome. The final moments of the flight were a blur of rapid calculations, final adjustments, and the deafening rush of air as the plane descended toward the water. The plane touched down with a violent shudder, skimming the water's surface. The force of the impact sent water splashing against the fuselage, but miraculously, the plane stayed intact. The emergency slides deployed, and the passengers scrambled to evacuate. Once the plane had come to a halt, there was a brief moment of silence. The passengers, many of whom were still in shock, slowly began to realize that they had survived something that seemed impossible. Sully and Skiles remained on the plane, ensuring that all passengers were evacuated. The flight attendants, too, were quick to assist, guiding the passengers to the emergency slides. The cold water began to seep into the plane, but the crew remained calm, ensuring that everyone got off the plane and onto the wings or the lifeboats that had been dispatched by nearby vessels. The quick response of the crew and the professionalism they demonstrated under pressure were nothing short of remarkable. The passengers, many of whom had initially been unaware of the dire situation, were now safe and being rescued by boats that had arrived almost immediately. In the aftermath of the emergency landing, the world quickly learned of the miraculous survival of all 155 people on board. News outlets rushed to cover the story, and the heroism of Captain Sully and First Officer Skiles was hailed by the media, passengers, and the public. The incident became known as the Miracle on the Hudson, and it captured the world's attention. In the following days, investigations into the cause of the crash began. The National Transportation Safety Board, NTSB, launched a thorough investigation into the geese strike that had led to the loss of both engines. The plane itself was thoroughly examined, and the actions of the flight crew were scrutinized. In the end, it was determined that Sully and Skiles had done everything by the book, making quick and precise decisions that ultimately saved lives. The aftermath of the incident was a testament to the professionalism and bravery of the flight crew. Sully, who had been a pilot for decades, was lauded for his quick thinking and calm demeanor under pressure. The public's admiration for him grew, and he became a symbol of heroism in the aviation world. However, despite all the praise, Sully remained humble, repeatedly emphasizing that the success of the emergency landing was a team effort. He credited his crew, the air traffic controllers, and the passengers for their role in ensuring the safety of. As for the passengers, many of whom had experienced moments of sheer terror, their lives were forever changed by the experience. Some returned to their homes in the days following the crash, trying to move on from what they had gone through. Others sought counseling or took time off to process the trauma. In the years that followed, some of the passengers reunited, sharing their stories of survival and gratitude for the crew that had saved their lives. The event also had a lasting impact on aviation safety. The incident led to a renewed focus on bird strike prevention and increased training for emergency situations. The survival of all passengers and crew on board was a rare and remarkable occurrence, but it was a powerful reminder of the importance of preparation, training, and teamwork in the face of disaster. For Captain Sully and First Officer Skiles, life after the incident was never quite the same. They were both hailed as heroes, but they never sought fame or recognition. They continued to work in aviation, though Sully eventually retired, becoming an advocate for aviation safety and a public speaker. He authored a memoir sharing the story of the Miracle on the Hudson and his career in aviation. One on board. In the years following the crash, the story of Flight 1549 remained a powerful reminder of the importance of calm under pressure, the value of experience, and the courage to make difficult decisions in life or death situations. The Miracle on the Hudson was not just about a plane landing on a river. It was about the humanity, teamwork, and resilience that allowed 155 people to survive what could have been a devastating tragedy.